I am Vikash Tatayah. I'm the Conservation Director of the Mauritius Wildlife Foundation. Well, it's an ecological disaster for endemic wildlife or even for native wildlife, whether it is marine ecosystems or whether it is terrestrial ecosystems. And we manage an island called Endangered Nature Reserve, which is world renowned. Plus, we also work on several of the other islands in the southeast of Mauritius in the same area called the Maibo Bay, and where we're working with very rare plants, native vegetation. We've done bird reintroduction, reptile translocations, education, ecotourism, seabird reintroduction as well, and rewilding with tortoises, which is now world renowned for one of the places where rewilding with other species has actually been a success. Some of these species are critically endangered, some are vulnerable, or, well, they are red listed according to the IUCN already before we had the wreck and before we had the oil spill. And at the background, you have climate change, which is possibly impacting on all of our ecosystems, as it's doing in much of the rest of the world. And on top of this, you have this shipwreck, which comes and is going to pollute, most probably pollute the island, pollution of the groundwater, pollution of the animals themselves, and accumulate in plants. So we may find either some plants are dying from these pollutants, which they've never encountered before, or that they accumulated and then they are being fed by animals, and then the effects can be very long term. Well, you've said it. Is it really possible to return to normal after you had such an impact on the islands? And secondly, is how much have they taken? How much has been absorbed on the island? These are all questions. How far they're affected. Animals can still survive, but then not reproduce or produce chicks that don't survive to become adults and to lay viable eggs or to raise strong chicks. So, the effects can be very indirect and far-reaching and not catch our attention right now. And we may learn in the next few years what the actual impact of this disaster may have been. First of all, what we did on the day that there was the oil spill, we have taken a small number of olive white eyes, which are critically endangered, Mauritius fodies, which are endangered. We've taken critically endangered plants that were in the nursery of the island, so that we can continue to protect them on the mainland of Mauritius. We had captive Mauritius fruit bats, which we used for studies and for educational purposes, and we've taken those off the island. And today I've gone to some of the other northern island, today we've gone to some of the other neighbor bay islets, and there we are translocating a number of Beau Jersey skinks and Bouton skinks, and tonight we'll be translocating night geckos from these islands, because these islands have been reached by the oil slick now, and one of them has even got oil slick on the island. And we have to start protecting those rare endemic reptiles. And so we've set up a sort of a captive breeding holding facility on the mainland of Mauritius. In haste, we've done that, so that we can protect the species from decline, if not from extinction on these islands. And although these reptiles are found on the northern islets of Mauritius, studies have shown that their genetic makeup is now unique because they've been isolated. The northern islets and the southeastern islets have been isolated for several thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. And the genetic makeup of the southeast of these reptiles is distinct from the northern population. So we are here trying to save the species at the genetics level as a reaction to the oil spill. The support from the government of Mauritius has been overwhelming in the sense that the Mauritian Wildlife Foundation was integrated into the National Oil Spill Contingency Committee when it happened. And even before the oil spill happened, we were on committees with the Ministry of Environment and many other relevant government agencies and ministries. And we have felt that we are a partner with the government, and we've been giving our best of advice to the government. I mean, we as a national NGO have to help the country, and we are giving our best of attention and putting together sometimes some of our contacts, whether it is in the private sector or the international community, so that we can all tackle this together. We are also doing quite a lot of things. I mean, such as, I can just give you a few examples. We have tried to discuss with partners abroad how we are going to be able to deal with oil seabirds. So this is where we've used our contacts in the international scenes to do that. Well, for seabirds, as is done elsewhere in the world, you have to pick those seabirds up and they'll have to be treated by veterinarians or animal carers. The classic care is to wash the oil off with warm water and dishwashing liquid. It sounds simple and crude, but that's the only way to do it. But it is quite drastic on the animal. I mean, the animal, the bird, for example, loses the waterproofing in its wings. So it has to rebuild this natural waterproof so that when it is back at sea, its feathers don't get soggy. It often takes several months or several weeks or several months to get a bird to that stage where it can be released. And on top of that, many animals do not make it because they would have ingested the oil as well. There's been an appeal from the government of Mauritius for international help. The French troops and the French have put at our disposal quite a lot of logistics from Réunion Island. There have been Japanese experts that have arrived from Japan just in the last few days. From France, there have been people who deal with cleanups, which have been hired by the company, I believe the salvage company or the insurers, and help has also been offered by, from what I understand, India, Britain, South Africa, and there may be more that's on its way. But international attention has been phenomenal. I mean, we receive a lot of, Mauritius has received a lot of international attention. Probably would have been better for something positive rather than something negative, but just to show that people around the world are concerned about what's happening in Mauritius. Absolutely. I mean, on our website we have details of how to donate to the Mauritian Wildlife Foundation, and so there are various different ways: crowdfunding or deposit on our account, etc., etc. Everything is transparent. You can ask how your money is going to be used. And we are happy to do that. We can give a little receipt to acknowledge that we've received this money, so it's all above board. And we have to restore Îles Aigrettes and continue the work on the other Southeast Islands. Yes, absolutely. Volunteers can help greatly. I mean, they have to be volunteers who have scientific background, who have at least say an undergraduate in zoology, ecology, conservation biology, or the likes. Yes, they can help, but right now, as you know, with COVID, international flights are not coming to Mauritius. So although we may get a lot of people wanting to come out and help and have the experience and training, uh, until the Mauritius has opened its borders, that might be a bit difficult. And of course, there are quarantine restrictions as well. But yes, volunteers can help. We are happy to receive funding to continue the work. Not only do we have to restore the islands, but we have to now depollute the islands. We have to clean up the islands of these pollutants, which is not something that we've ever had to do. And on Îles et Grètes, for example, we've stopped using any pesticides or herbicides, and we've tried to keep the island as safe and as clean as possible from all these nasty chemicals. And all of a sudden, you get an oil slick around you, and you know, we are already starting to work with a company that does environmental testing to see how badly the water, the air, and the general environment has been affected, and to see for ourselves how we are going to be able to restore this. And we are trying to talk to bioremediation experts and how we are going to be able to clean up our environment properly, not in a destructive fashion, but in the most using nature-based solutions. We should not use dispersants, for example, and that is taken on board. I mean, there are a number of ways that you can clean up. I mean, I use cleanup because this is what people will understand. Are bad for the environment, they are bad for corals, they're bad for fishes, and the government is not going, as far as I can tell, is not looking at that as enough. This is why we need to be looking at replanting of corals and restocking of fishes, and bioremediation, you know, using probes to mop up to eat up the oil. You know, we are going to have to look at this as natural situations, natural solutions, and I think the principle is taken on board. Well, I think one of the things that Mauritius must gear itself for is to get the proper compensation from the insurers for the environmental damage that this has caused. We have ourselves spent 30 years, nearly 40 years, working on these islands and restoring these islands. And it's heartbreaking to the hundreds of people that have worked, volunteered at times, most of the time volunteer their service for months, if not years of their lives, to restore these species and these ecosystems. And I think we were quite advanced in terms of where we were getting to in terms of the islands. And I think we've got to make sure we get compensation that is long-term, because the damage is going to be long-term, and that livelihoods of people are compensated properly as well, because people have lost livelihoods. We've lost business, for example. We run ecotourism on the island, which generates income for conservation. Now, after COVID, now we've got this, we are badly hit. As an organization, we're very badly hit this year. It's been an annus horribilis, as some would say. I think there are inquiries. I think the inquiries must go through to the end to really establish what's really happened. There are some gray areas. There are some unanswered questions. And I think the people of Mauritius need to know what's happened. And we've had, according to my counts, 4 shipwrecks in the past 5 years. And these were of ships that shouldn't have even been close to Mauritius. So there's one on St. Brandon nearly 5 years ago. and it's called Kayang, for which we haven't received any compensation. The country hasn't received compensation yet. There was another one called Angel One. I don't think we received a lot of money from that. There has been another one called MV Benita. My own assessment is that we received peanuts from it. And that MV Benita was 4 years ago. And now we've got Wakasha, which is far bigger than any of the other shipwrecks that we've had in the past 5 years. I can't blame the Japanese government because this is a private vessel. And if you look at Marine Tracker, you'll see so many of these ships are going through Mauritius there. And we're talking of oil tankers, we are talking of container ships, we are talking of fishing vessels. And these are not stopping at Mauritius. They are in safe passages. I think they should really keep their, I understand, 12 nautical miles and make sure they keep their 12 nautical miles, and they get knocked on the knuckles if they don't. We have to review this. I think we have to be stricter on it, and probably given the frequent shipwrecks, we probably will have to see how we can reinforce our coast guards to be able to be guarding our coastline. We have to increase our develop a rapid response. In this, we have to review the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan, which I think is in the process. So there's quite a number of things that we need to do to just be more prepared for such events.